friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria, and today, back by popular demand and also because I love doing it, we are going to be doing plus size character representation in romance. So my previous video, I have plus size heroines video. I will link it down below, recommending a ton of books that feature plus size heroines. And I asked in that video if you would like to see more, and I got a lot of responses both on YouTube and on Instagram asking to do a part 2. So here we are doing a part 2. And in this video, I thought that we should give some love to the plus size men also. So I do have a couple of recommendations for plus sized men in romance as well. So this is not just plus size heroines, it's going to be plus sized character representation. And I'm really excited to talk about these books and these characters. I talked about it in that video, I have been on a big journey, not even just recently for my whole life, but very much recently also, because I have had such weight fluctuations and difficulty with my health and everything, and it's caused my weight to fluctuate so much, and I've had some serious body image problems and issues that I've been dealing with, and reading books featuring plus size characters who get all of the love makes me feel so good about myself. So I wanted to bring some more for you. So we're gonna get right into these books and talk about some plus size characters. So we are going to start with the men. Actually, I have 3 different recommendations, but 2 of the recommendations are actually series, and we're gonna start with those. So the one that talks about just the one man in the book is Zenny by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This one, the hero is described as being thick, which to me means that he's got some meat on his bones. He doesn't have like washboard abs, and we love that on a man. So he's talked about as being this just like big, thick guy. He's like tall but also like big, and we love that. So this romance, I love this romance, is a interracial romance about a heroine named Zenny and a hero whose name I can't remember, who end up in a marriage of convenience in order to get a inheritance. So Zenny's family member passes away, and she shows up for the funeral and finds out that this family member left her a large sum of money and also left a large sum of money to the hero. But in order for the 2 of them to claim their inheritances from this woman, they have to marry each other. And the 2 of them want the money from this inheritance, and so they decide they're gonna do a marriage of convenience for, I think it's a year is what the inheritance like stipulates that they have to get married for. So they decide to get married for a year in order to get their inheritance. And the 2 of them end up falling in love along the way. I love this kind of story. I've read a few books with this type of plot line, and I love a marriage of convenience. I love a contemporary marriage of convenience. So I find this type of story so fun and interesting, and the 2 of them pair so well together. They're very different but very similar in like very odd ways. Like hero is a lot like, he's a little bit more subdued than the heroine, and I love them. They're also both bisexual, which I love. Big fan of that, seeing some bisexual representation in romance. You get some pegging scenes in this book, which another thing that I just love in a romance. So this one's so good, definitely recommend. The other 2 plus size hero recommendations that I have are both for novella series. So we have the series by Cassie Mint. I don't know what this series is called. I always just refer to it as the Big Boys series. I don't know if it has like a real name. Let me actually like double check and see if it has like an actual name. But all of I always call it like the Big Boys series because all of the books are like big something. So it's like Big Bratva, Big Boss, that kind of thing. Oh, it is called the Big Boys series. I was right. So I didn't just make that up. So that's cool. I was right. So we have Big Boss, Big Biker, Big Boxer, Big Baker, Big Bet, Big Bratva, Big Beast, Big Brain. There are like 8 of them, I think, in the series, and they're just really fun, quick novellas that feature plus-sized heroes who are all really amazing, falling for their heroines, and I love to see the love in these books. I think they're so fun, such a good time for like a quick palette cleanser in between different books, especially like because they are like shorter. I think my favorite in the series is Big Boxer, if I remember. It's been a while since I've read them, but they're all just like 60 to 80 pages each, and they're just good, fun, quick times and steamy, and I love them. The other series that I have is along this very similar lines, and that is the same style of series. I don't know what the series is called, if this one has a title, but by Jessica Kane. So this series is More to Love series by Jessica Kane. This series features all novellas with plus-sized characters in it. I believe that they're mostly plus-size heroes, but they're all so freaking good. My favorites in this one are definitely Hefty and king-sized. They are so good. Like, I very rarely give novellas 5 stars, but Hefty and king-sized, top tier 5-star novellas. I love both of them. Hefty is a friends to lovers romance, which is another one that's not like super my favorite thing, but it's like a really sweet novella about these two friends, and it's definitely pining. The hero is so in love with the heroine, and it's like he has such a big crush on her, but he doesn't think that she's gonna love him, and it's so freaking adorable. And then King Sized, which is my other favorite in the series, is a hero who, it's kind of like regal themed. So the heroine is the princess and the hero is her bodyguard, and she is crying. Her parents have died and he refuses to stand by and like listen to her cry, even though that's his job. Like, he's the bodyguard. He's not supposed to actually interact with the princess. He's just supposed to stand and guard her. And he's like, I can't handle this. I have to go comfort her. And so he goes and he comforts her, and he like obviously finds her beautiful. She's the princess, but they fall in love, and it's so cute. And both of the heroes are plus sized. All of the heroes are plus sized in this series, but we have Hefty and Husky and Beefy, and they're just so good, so good, and I love them. So I definitely recommend them if you're looking for a plus sized hero. So that's the only ones that I knew off the top of my head for plus sized heroes. Those are the only 3 that I had, like 3 ideas that I had. So if you have recommendations for me for plus size heroes, I'd love to hear them because I want to read more plus size heroes. But now let's get into the ladies. I have a couple of books with plus size heroines to recommend to you. So the first one that I have is Rein Me In by Kayla Gross, and this one is a cowboy romance. It takes place on a farm in a small town. The heroine was born in this small town, grew up in this small town, and then she was riding with her brother, and her brother ended up dying, and she is gutted by this. She has dealing with so much grief around her brother's death, and she vowed to never get back on a horse. She was like, no, I'm not doing it. My brother died getting thrown from a horse. I'm not doing it. And so she ends up leaving the town. She's just has a hard time dealing with her grief, and she ends up leaving. But a couple of years later, she ends up coming back, and she ends up having a romance with her brother's best friend. And he helps her work through her grief, find her peace, and it's a really sweet romance. It has a lot of like emotional depth to it because the heroine is dealing with so much grief. She has not a great relationship with her parents, all because of surrounding her brother's death. She feels very much responsible for her brother's death also, and it's a really good romance, and I would definitely recommend it. And the heroine in this one is plus sized, and the cover shows her as a plus size heroine, which I love. I've read books before with that the heroines are described as plus sized, but they have skinny women on the cover, and I hate that. So I really love that the cover reflects the heroine. The next one that I have is a book that I've talked about so much since I read it, and that's P.S. You're Intolerable by Julia Wolf. I have talked so much about this book, but I really do love it. And the heroine in this one, she is pregnant, and she gets pregnant accidentally by a one-night stand, and she ends up getting a job for this very grumpy CEO named Elliot, and she becomes his personal assistant. And after she gives birth, he ends up learning about her financial situation and the situation in which she's living, and he wants to help her, and it ends up being a forced proximity because he invites her to live with him, and she's kind of like sunshiny, like very much despite the shit that she's dealing with. She is very sunshiny, he's very grumpy, and he softens so much to her. It's so freaking cute. I would definitely recommend it. The heroine is plus sized before she ever gets pregnant, but it does deal with a lot discussing like a postpartum body, and it being different than she's used to. So if that's something that's going to trigger you, I know that that's a possible trigger for people talking like postpartum. That is something that is talked about in this book, but I really loved it, and I would definitely recommend it. The next one that I have is a alien romance that I deeply love, and that is Choosing Theo by Victoria Aveline. This one is about a heroine who gets kidnapped from Earth by what I would like to refer to as the bad aliens. I never remember what alien species are called in the books that I read. So there are two types of aliens in this book, the bad aliens and the good aliens. So the heroine gets kidnapped from Earth by the bad aliens, but she ends up escaping from them and running into the good aliens. And the good aliens who live on this planet, they have this rule, or the rule of the universe, basically, of all the intergalactic species, is that when they interact, she has to stay, basically she has to stay on this planet for a year. She's not allowed, they're not allowed to bring her back to Earth. She has to stay on this planet for a year, and so that they can learn about Earth culture and that she can learn about their alien culture. And in order to do this, in order to stay on this planet, she needs to participate in this ceremony that they do, which is basically a marriage ceremony. She has to get married. So all of the men get paraded in front of her, and she has to choose which one she wants to marry, basically. And she ends up choosing Theo, and Theo has these scars on him that she actually thinks are tattoos, and she finds them sexy. But on this planet, like, any sort of imperfection is considered so disgusting, and these marks that Theo have are actually scars, and everyone on the planet thinks he's ugly, but she's like, damn, that man's attractive, I want him to be my husband. And he thinks that she chose him for nefarious reasons, so he doesn't believe that she chose him because she finds him attractive. He thinks that she chose him because she's a spy, and it was so good. The heroine in this one is plus sized, and I love her. She's such a badass. I love the way that she interacts with Theo. I think it's so good. I love how Theo, very much in the beginning, he thinks that she's a spy, and he does not trust anything she says, and is so good, and he falls for her so hard. This was actually one of my honorable mentions for my top 10 of 2023. I love this book so much. Highly recommend. The last one that I have for this video is Latte Darling by S.J. Tilly. I had to include another S.J. Tilly in this video. In my previous Plus Size Heroines video, I talked about the Alliance series, but in this video, I'm going to be talking about Latte Darling. So Latte Darling is a contemporary romance from S.J. Tilly where a heroine who is plus size wants to get back into dating. She hasn't been dating for a long time, but she decides to get back into dating, and so she signs up for some dating apps, and she ends up talking to this guy a little bit and scheduling a date with him. And she shows up to the date, and the guy like is late, and she's like getting nervous. She's like, should I leave? And then this man shows up who is not the guy from the dating app, and he is actually the father of the guy that she was supposed to meet. Basically, the guy she was supposed to meet lied about his age, and he was younger than he had said that he was, and his dad grounded him, and he knew that his son wasn't gonna let her know that the date was called off, and so he showed up instead because he didn't want her to be sitting there confused. So he shows up and he's like, well, my son's grounded, so he's not gonna come, and they end up hitting it off and having a romance. It's so good. It's age gap. The hero is also, I don't know if he's necessarily plus sized, but he's definitely described as being like a lot bigger than her. Like, he's a very like bulky guy. So he I don't know if he's necessarily plus sized, but he is like bigger than the average man. And the heroine for sure is plus sized, and I loved this book so much. There is a bit of daddy kink in this one, and it's a good time. It's a seriously good time. I would definitely recommend it. I really love Estee Tilly. I will definitely be reading more from her. I have talked about her a lot, but that's gonna be the last one for this video. I just had some more that I wanted to recommend to you. I will start compiling a list for a third part if that's something that y'all would be interested in. So let me know about that in the comments, but that's gonna be it for this video. So like this video if you liked it, subscribe, stick around and see more content from me, and leave me the mushroom emoji. I don't know why. That one was the first one that popped into my head. Okay, have a good day. Bye!